Hey there, I'm Tyler Buchanan, and I wanted to create a quick presentation about just sort of the basics of AI for those who may want to get up to speed on some of the terms and what AI is and what tools are available, as well as some specific use cases that I believe I'd like to see for my department specifically, and I think they could be broadly applied using the technology. So I'm hoping that people can take out of this uh, who may not have engaged with the technology, the specifics behind what it can do, how it can create tangible ROI, and what sort of tools are available. First, I want to start by defining some key AI concepts. I'm going to start with three, just for this presentation, being large language models, deep learning, and AI agents. Large language models probably be the most common thing people think about whenever I think about AI. They can generate human text. They parse up input into tokens that effectively just predict the next phrase in the sentence. And through doing that, through a lot more complicated training, you get very valuable outputs. They can answer inquiries. Some of the benchmark models now have extensive training data sets and have very impressive use cases and capabilities. Uh, There's some of the top models out there. ChatGPT has GPT-4, has its reasoning models, o1 and o3. Uh, Google Gemini, Google Gemini Pro. Anthropic has Claude. xAI has Grok and AlphaCode, just amongst many others. Deep learning is something that isn't talked about as much broadly, but it's a subset of machine learning that does more detailed learning. You think of deep learning as specifically trained and continually monitoring large language models. So it can be used to perform very, very detailed analyses on specific data sets. This is I'd say an extremely valuable application for AI, specifically for companies, because you can use AI tailored to your company's proprietary data and perform deep, detailed analyses and corrective actions or preventative actions, which we'll go into. Finally is the most exciting and most emergent technology with AI, which would be AI agents. And that was a little subjective, but that's how I feel. AI agents being autonomous systems that analyze, decide, and act. One of the most prevalent AI agents right now, as it comes onto the market, is OpenAI's Operator, which uses a web browser to complete a text prompt input. For example, if you were to say, book me an Airbnb for this weekend and make sure it's something by the beach in this price point, and you input all your data, credit card information, account information for Airbnb, it would go through and would do that whole thing for you. Really, any single task that be done by a human being at a computer can be done by an AI agent, or will be done. So now with those terms defined, I wanted to jump into what I believe are some of the most impressive AI use cases, really, that I could just come up with at the top of my head in 10, 15 minutes. So starting off, something that I think could broadly apply across the board would be AI for employee turnover mitigation. One of the biggest problems in any organization is you have a very well-functioning team, and you've got a key player who leaves that team. Maybe they take on a new role within the company, maybe they leave the company. But there's disruption that comes from that. You've got to train a new employee, you shift up all the responsibility, you lose a wealth of knowledge. So something that is possible today with the AI tools available is to create a tool that would go through and monitor every single action that's done on a company computer. It could train, when we talk about training large language models, we talk about the data set that's fed into the large language model so that you can prompt it to be an expert on that data. You can do that with all of the data that's stored on a personal computer. So that could be anything that's in the archived emails on an Outlook account. If you have an employee who's already left the company, you could actually train an AI, and there are actually some interesting papers where some companies have already done this, have taken employees who have left the company long ago, their archived email inbox and outbox, and trained a model and effectively revived that employee so that they could answer questions about their past projects. So you could tie this to your org chart for your organization. So it wouldn't necessarily monitor just a single person, but that role. And you would have continuity throughout, people promoting into that role, new employees coming in, being hired, and you'd be able to say, have an effective expert who will know the entire time. One of the main benefits of this is that you don't lose that knowledge whenever an employee leaves. It can also interface with your org chart. You can use it to make recommendations up to your project manager, assess man hours. There's a really wide application use for this. Additionally, it can reduce the cost of onboarding new employees because the AI itself can interact through chat to aid in training the new employee. If you've got areas where an employee is entering a vacant position, you no longer have to pay for outside consulting hires or put a burden on other teammates or a manager, or at the very least you can reduce that burden. Another impressive element of this use case would be accountability. So if you've got a highly technical role with very little oversight through necessity, maybe it's an extremely niche application, you now have an AI who aids in communicating those highly technical skills to a manager who might have a more generalized skill set, as well as maybe for remote employees who maybe they aren't confident enough to speak up to their manager, maybe they're struggling, maybe they aren't as productive as they could be, and it's harder to oversee those employees. This AI would be an excellent tool set up to a manager to say, hey, this person is taking less actions per day, is being less productive, doesn't have the output that their previous or their predecessor had in the role. So all in all, employee turnover mitigation and effectively using AI to supplement or to guide an employee in realistically any role is the first use case. I've added some projected ROI numbers. They are highly speculative. I did try to do some math to add in here, but for the sake of keeping things broad, I probably should have just omitted that. But I'm hoping that it's safe to say that the return on investment is tangible there. So talk through it already. Collect and train on existing employee data, develop and fine tune the AI model. So especially, I think there's a fallacy that if we wait and jump on the technology when it's more mature, that we will have saved some time, especially using some of the benchmark models now. The training is continuous and tasks on as you go. I've been a ChatGPT user since its public launch, and despite using the less mature technologies, now whenever I interact with the more mature technologies, it still has the memory of the actions and the tools that I made with it in the past. So you still benefit and you fine tune iteratively. Something else you could do, you could build an interactive dashboard. No doubt these sorts of tools will become available through Microsoft. They may already be available. Workday, those sorts of companies will begin to build these. But the way that you can use AI, you can set up API keys and you do not lose any progress. You can create them to interact seamlessly and without much software engineering demand. I myself am not a software engineer and I have created these tools. Next one that comes to mind, and again, these are just very quick use cases that I hope get people thinking and get people aware of the use cases for AI at the employee level. Project management efficiency. You can set up projects dynamically using org charts. So effectively, the AI would have an understanding of organization based off an org chart, have an understanding of anyone who's set up a Microsoft projects template for any sort of project knows that you just got to get your resources, your manpower resources that you have, the time that a project would take, allocate accordingly, especially if you combine this sort of use case with the last use case. You can see how very quickly you get an effective personnel management tool. One of the best use cases for this, I think, is communicating between highly technical teams. So when you've got, say, a very highly specialized team, such as maybe software engineers working on programming or writing logic for software, and they've got to communicate their requirements to maybe a fluid dynamics team, both highly specialized, highly technical teams that don't have a lot of crossover. Maybe their manager or the project manager themselves has a background in electrical engineering. So it becomes very difficult to explain the handoffs between the two and maintain continuity of work through that process. Using an AI project management tool would make it easier to translate those technical requirements into a language that's understandable from other teams, potentially specifically knowing or understanding the skill set of the person who is receiving communication, translating what they're receiving to be the most easy to digest. In order to implement this sort of project, you'd want to train the AI on historical project data. Any sort of existing project management tools would still be useful to import and train. This allows the AI tool from day one to get an understanding of what a man hour is worth in terms of productive output, can determine maybe how teams have worked together and what stages of the process create the most hurt. You can enable real-time tracking and automation. Again, that would be with something like the previous tool, where it's going to monitor an employee's desktop or monitor their productive output in some way and create reports automatically to a project management tool rather than having to rely on manual reports. You can develop AI-driven summaries for technical teams. You can create summaries as the work is going. Everyone at this point is probably familiar with the transcript tools available in programs like ChatGPT or Teams and Fathom. Another use case for AI would be a supply chain resilience tool. Obviously, this is already a massive priority for any company, and it is something that we undergo. I'm not suggesting this is a new concept, but it could enable increasing the resilience and redundancy within supply chains. Specifically for me as an electrical engineer, where I think about this, would be using a AI agent like Operator to say, hey, here is my existing bill of materials that I use and their suppliers. This is the lead times that I have and the price that I get. I need you to continually monitor the internet. Set this thing up to contact suppliers, to contact distributors for ABB, Rockwell, any of the parts that I use, and attempt to negotiate lower prices or obtain lower prices or more competitive lead times. Obviously, the benefit in here would be for every single part that you have currently that you're ordering, you could have a backup part. For every backup part, you could have a backup part. And you could have a intelligent system that would automatically decide when a part needed to be ordered, which part would be selected based on the most updated prices and lead times. There's already existing softwares that do this today, but it is costly to administer, upkeep them. AI could perform the same actions for a fraction of the cost, and without the dependence on outside organizations for maintaining licensing and software maintenance. So in order to implement this sort of AI for supply chains, all you'd have to do is take any sort of existing software that we're using, export and even an Excel document, aggregate that data, and train the AI based on that data. You could then, based on historical data, create a weighting system for lead time, MOP, MOQ, sorry, MOQ, and price, and have it in real time evaluate for projects. Say how important in a project is lead time, how important is quantity of that you can order, how important is price, and be able to navigate that more effectively, well, perhaps more effectively than would happen otherwise with software tools or manually. The negotiating tool already is being used across the internet for negotiating things like car insurance, rates anywhere. So it already has a proven track record in the market. Its ability to negotiate prices. You can set up real-time supply chain alerts. So this continuous monitoring system can alert even existing orders that are in place. Say, hey, there is a cheaper price, or if we hit a snag, there is a faster lead time. And overall, you could use this as a tool, maybe not independent of existing softwares or existing teams, but as a tool for them to refine and improve supply chain. And lastly, and I think the absolute most important use case for AI is just learning AI. There are plenty of certificate programs out there with limited effectiveness. The undeniably best way to learn AI is to interact with the software, ask it to teach it to you, and it will. The best way to train a workforce in mass would not be to hire expensive consultants and have them come in. It would be simply to have them engage with the technology, provide incentives potentially, give dedicated time for employees to interact with AI software and come up with ways that they can do their jobs more efficiently. I do not think that there is a single role in any company that cannot be improved by AI, whether that be doing something faster, cheaper, more efficiently automated. I think that the possibilities are endless. And if anyone has any requests for specific use cases, this is something that I love to do. So if there's a role that anyone would like to brainstorm how to do a use case for AI, and maybe in a future one of these, if people do like it, I'll walk through how to actually build these tools using AI, how to use AI agents, and see if that can't be helpful. Yeah. So conclusion for why it's a business necessity is that it doesn't just increase or reduce the time it takes to perform a task. It's not just about reducing your workday or making things easier. It's going to enhance the effectiveness. It's going to enhance your ability to do something in a repeated manner. It's going to enhance the ability to obtain data on how that was done for management, as well as just for internal processes. It's going to reduce costs, reduce dependence on outside agencies and softwares. And my opinion is that, obviously the opinion of this entire group is that Madison Industries must invest and is investing in AI to future-proof operations. Yeah, and we're all on board. So hopefully people like this. If not, I apologize for the waste of 20 minutes. Have a good night.